Hey there, everyone. Welcome back to the Empowered Educator platform. And I'm excited to be back with you for another amazing episode. We are in the thick of it at my school. How are you doing? If you listen to this and you are a school administrator, especially down in the southern region of the United States, you're probably gearing up to start welcoming staff back, just as we are. If you are a teacher, you're probably starting to think about rebuilding your classroom, getting your affairs in order, so to speak, so that you can get yourself ready for back to school staff development. I know some districts up in the north have a couple more weeks, but it's coming. It's coming fast. And this past week, I had the opportunity. I don't sit in the principal seat right now, but I am on the leadership team. I'm a year-round employee, and so we sit in our staff development um, at the district level so that we can then in turn turn it around to the campus level. And a lot of things were discussed this past week that made me really try to continue to put on my teacher hat and at the same time, my school administrator hat. This is that time of year where I know for myself in my own experiences, we get bogged down as a school administrator with, oh my gosh, I got to get this ready and I got to get this ready. And then mandates come down, right? New regulations that come from the state level, new expectations that come from the district level. And it can feel a bit overwhelming. And we tend to forget that we're getting this information early, right? So we can start to digest it as the school administrator. But then teachers are going to receive this during their weeks of back to school staff development while they're thinking about their classes and their meet the teacher and their room setup and all of the things. So the first thing that I'm going to preface everything that I talk about this week with is let's just all make sure we breathe. And let's make sure that we're all giving ourselves and each other opportunities to ease into the work and be able to have some time. Something that I know I did is try to be able to allow my teachers enough time to get into the building if they wanted to come early and set up and organize and chill and talk with people and do all of those things that they've been craving over the summer. And yes, some people do crave that. And then also during those first weeks back, try to still, even though everything is very, very busy, allow people enough time to make sure that their rooms are ready, that the things that weigh on their hearts and minds, they have an opportunity to take care of so that when they walk into these kinds of trainings and meetings, everything doesn't feel like it's starting to pile on top of itself. So that's tip number one for this week, but that's not what I'm going to talk about. I also got reminded of something that I think is so, so important. I think back to the year we had COVID, and I think about how we had no idea what we were doing that last 9 weeks of school when everything shut down. And I remember sitting on Zoom meetings, trying to brainstorm and problem solve and do all the things with our district administrators. And then in turn, bring all of my teaching staff onto these meetings and try to be able to do the same thing with them. It was a really rough time, as we all know. And some people handled it very well. And unfortunately, some people didn't handle that time well at all and made decisions to get out. And I know a lot of those people. And it's not a dig at anyone, or it doesn't make you a good or a bad person. It's just that I think at that time of life, we all realized that there was going to become some kind of shift in the world that we never imagined everything in our world could shut down like that, right? Or at least I never did. And then it did. And it made me think, If that could happen, what else could happen? And it caused me to start thinking things a little bit different. And I remember when we came back that following year, and we had some students at school, and we had some students at home online, and it was a rough year. It was rough because our students, regardless if you were coming back in person or not, legitimately had, let's just say it how it is, from March until August of doing nothing. Yes, again, we tried to problem solve the best we could. And I know districts all over the world tried to problem solve it, but nobody knew what they were doing at the time. And having to build the plane while you're flying it, we made a lot of mistakes. So from March until August, 6 months of time, 5 months of time at least, students had no expectations. I remember telling my staff all the time, even after a 2-week break, especially Christmas break, that 2 weeks, we needed to go back and go back over expectations and go back over processes and procedures. And that was just a 2-week break. And think about how many times at the beginning of the year and how long at the beginning of the year you go back over systems and processes and procedures and expectations and getting to know you and building relationships. And that's after a 2-month time off. So when you're talking 5 to 6 months of time off, it looks different. And then add on to that what I said earlier. Half of our students were back at school and half of them were home. And those that were home, some of their parents were back to work. So these kids were getting themselves up. Imagine a first grade student, 6 years old, never having to have done this before, needing to get up, get themselves ready for school. But instead of doing that, they're navigating a Zoom meeting without falling back to sleep, while not eating breakfast or snacks during their time, trying to follow the same expectations that we had when we were at school. And I'll be honest, I felt like that entire year had become more of a babysitting than us actually digging deep into the work. And I'm sure I'm not the only one, because accountability systems adjusted for that year back, testing protocols adjusted for that year back. Everything had a different level of standard. Again, some people did that very, very well, knowing that once we got past these big hurdles, we would have some kind of normalcy again. And some people didn't. I had teachers that were using the COVID situation as reasons to break contracts with me. I had colleagues that decided that would be their last year to run their schools, run their departments, and decided to either transition out of education or retire altogether. And then as we went forward into the next year, I really saw that the mentality, the mindset of my staff, not every one of them, because I had some amazing staff members, but those that were already struggling tended to want to grasp on to the altered expectations from COVID years when we were back to normal. For example, why can't I wear my yoga pants to work? Why can't I just roll out of bed and show up late? Why do I have to teach in person? So many of these things popped up from my staff that, I'll be honest, were not my strongest staff members. And not only the returning staff members, but we still had our regular processes that were happening in schools with attrition. I was starting to keep most of my staff, but I still had to hire some new people. And new people coming in, you know them for a minute, right? Within your interview process. And then you have to make a decision if you believe they're going to be the best fit. And sometimes, most times, it works out, and sometimes it doesn't. And I think in general, there was this overarching theme that started to come into play where we were babysitting before, so why can we not continue to babysit now? I left my principal seat in June of 2023. I had it planned out. It wasn't because of COVID. It wasn't because of one specific incident. It wasn't any of those things. I had planned 2 years prior to leave out at the end of 2023 to begin my business, to continue to work on writing, to make my documentary, to be able to do those things. I specifically planned it. Once things kind of got in order, I realized I missed it, of course, because I knew I would. But I made the conscious choice to go back into the position I'm at now because it's not requiring all of my time, but it still allows me to work with students and with teachers and be able to have an impact. And during that window of time when I was out, I heard from people how tough it was to get teachers in the classrooms, how hard it was to continue to keep teachers motivated, how difficult it was to continue to meet the level of rigor with the students, especially after the COVID slide, but then with this new mentality of expectations that many teachers had for what the work was going to be. And I came across this little phrase, and I thought, ooh, I need to talk about this on the podcast because it's so important. Now, I believe that there are some amazing educators out there who believe in the power of a teacher, who know that teaching is hard because it matters, and they're willing to continue to grow and build their skills and band together so that we can do this hard thing better. That's why I started the Uncommon platform, to have a hub for people like this, a community where people can come in and get the things that they need to be able to sharpen their tools, to be able to connect with like-minded people, to be able to participate in events that take place, who help us, or events that help us become better at what we do. Because there are plenty of people out there that want to be amazing, but don't want to just be average. But we still have some people out there that believe in this phrase I saw, that being a teacher basically means you're babysitting somebody's children. I've even seen where people have used the analogy of this to go as far to say, this is how I should be paid in my salary, because babysitting children, you get this much an hour, blah, 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 blah. Not digging against anyone. I know that's probably going to ruffle feathers. I apologize in advance, but I'm using that for all of us to understand. We definitely have some people out there that are seeing our profession as being a glorified babysitter. And if we're doing things that are going to actually move the needle and to support our students, we've got to get rid of that thought altogether, because I thought about being a daycare owner. I wasn't going to be teaching children math, reading, writing, science, social studies. Sure, maybe I would be teaching them problem-solving skills and how to get along with others and those kind of soft skills, which are very important. But I didn't need a teaching degree for that. The babysitters that my daughter had growing up, they didn't always have a teaching degree. They were there to oversee that my child was safe, that she got fed, that she got changed when she was still a baby, that she was making the right choices, and that she was not left alone. Yes, babysitters get paid a lot of money, but they have to deal with a lot of things that I made the choice. I wasn't going to go in to that kind of profession. I wanted to teach children and have an impact in a different way. So how do we ensure that we've got people on the bus with us in the right seats with the right mentality, that we're not there to be babysitters? And that's exactly what this entire week of staff development was talking about. How do we continue to move the needle with our students by supporting our teachers and providing them with the right coaching and the right supports and the right tools, the right level of support that gives them a productive struggle to learn how to do planning and processing, but still give them what they need when they get stuck. That we make our teachers a priority, and in turn expect that our teachers are going to make our students, and not just the students to be babysat, but the students' academic progress to be a priority. So I rambled for a few minutes, but here's my question for all of us this week. If you're a school leader watching this, what are you doing to ensure that your teachers do not have the philosophy that when we walk in those classrooms, we're just babysitting children? And teachers, where are you on the spectrum? And if you are on the side where you think, yeah, I basically do just go in and make sure nobody hurts each other, make sure everybody eats, and make sure everybody goes home at the end of the day, that is the wrong philosophy. And how do we get you to the other side of that spectrum where you truly believe that when you can have an impact on students' engagement and empowerment in the classroom, their behavior is one where they want to participate in class. They don't want to go to the office. They don't want to stay home. That they want to continue to press on when you start to ask those higher level thinking types of questions. That they don't just shut down and throw fits when they can't do something. Now, Uncommon is open, and every one of my trainings, I stop and I think about this. How is this helping this administrator, this aspiring administrator, or this teacher to get better? How is this going to have an impact on student outcomes? Because if it doesn't, it's not going onto the platform. If you need that kind of support, I'm recording this on July 12th. We're almost halfway through July. And if you want to get in as that founding member and lock in your membership price for $20 a month, this is your time to do it. This is your time to start thinking, how do I start to gear up for what is coming? Because 25, 26, I promise you, it's going to look different everywhere. Funding is different. Expectations are different. And whether we like it or not, we're not there to babysit. And kids can't learn without a teacher in that classroom. AI cannot do what we do. So how do we help ourselves? This is something I want you to really take some time to reflect on this week, y'all. Principals, specialists, coaches, interventionists, teachers, aspiring teachers, paraprofessionals, we all have a job to do. Custodians, secretaries, cafeteria. If we think we're just there to babysit children, we've got to change that mindset. And it's going to take more than just one person to do that. It's going to take all of us working together. All right, y'all. I rambled. I got on the soapbox, but I think it's just so important that we go into this new year with the right mindset. Now, if you are interested in learning a little more about what I think it takes to be the most successful teacher, I'm offering a free workshop on Saturday next week, July 19th at 2 p.m. Central Time. It'll be on Zoom, so you'll need the Zoom link. I will be recording and then placing that presentation into Uncommon, where you will have to have the subscription to be able to see it, the replay, the event itself. But for that one day, I want to go live and provide you with this support based on my TEDx talk. I've used this in other districts around Texas, and I've gotten amazing feedback, and I know you don't want to miss out. So if that's something you're interested in, send me an email, sherry.oncommonedu@gmail.com, and let's get you registered for that. All right, go forth. Let's make this year the best yet. Reach out if you need me. Have an amazing one, and I'll see you all next week right back here on Empowered Educator.